Well, the scientific research has shown that exposure to the pollution that comes from traffic both causes asthma in some children and also causes asthma attacks. So the research with my colleagues has found for the very first time that in Los Angeles in 2007, there were 27,000 children who developed asthma because of exposure to this pollution. And this has really big impacts on the economy. In that year alone, it was about $500 million in Los Angeles County. We also found that it has very large impacts on families. So, for an example, if a child has an asthma attack and a mother or father has to stay home to take care of that child, that parent loses wages for the day. When we looked at this in Los Angeles, we found that on average, families lose about $3,000 a year in terms of the wages that they forego and the amount they end up spending on health care. So over time, this has a very big impact on families. Well, looking at repeat admissions is an important indicator of inefficiency. The question is, how do we actually measure repeat admissions? So what I did with colleagues was look at all the admissions in the state of Massachusetts over 7 years. And what we found was twofold. First, that the rate of repeat admissions varied drastically across the different illnesses. In fact, it was 20 times different from the lowest rate of admissions to the illness that had the highest rate of admission. I'm interested in how economic research can improve the quality of life for American families. And one way in which this plays out is looking at how we evaluate the benefits of air pollution reduction. So here's an example. We know that exposure to traffic-related pollution can cause childhood asthma. It can also cause asthma attacks. It can also cause a wide variety of other illnesses, such as cardiovascular disease. The next question then is, how do we value those impacts? And the way that we currently do this in regulation analysis is we have systems that undervalue the time of maternal caregivers and the wide variety of impacts. And my research, I hope, will influence policymakers and regulators in how they do that kind of benefit assessment. In order to reduce exposure to traffic pollution, we should first look at those places where kids tend to gather together. Two important places are schools and daycare centers. And then there are 3 steps that we can take. First of all, some states already have anti-idling laws, and we should make sure that we're enforcing those laws. In states that don't have such anti-idling laws, we should advocate to develop those laws. The second thing is we should look at schools that are already near major roadways. What we can do is construct barriers between those schools and the roadways, and we can also install air filtration systems. The third step is to look at where we're putting new schools. It's important to think about locating those schools away from major roadways to prevent the exposure in the first place.